many people in markets were not expecting a clear majority. There were some quarters that were also believing that it can be a complete coalition kind of an arrangement. So from that perspective, I think it has been a surprise. And people are looking for stability and a continuity. For them, it's a pleasant surprise. Given that markets, many people were underowning the stocks, and there were short positions also in the market. So that is why you see a sort of a pent-up demand and a quick rally. Going forward, market will consolidate, but the underlying trend will be bullish because Indian economy is well placed for a good growth. A lot of hard work was done in NDA's first term in terms of reforms. If you see the IBC, the bankruptcy law, or GST, and many other reforms, the demonetization impact on the financialization of savings. So all these things will have to play out, and RERA, the real estate, all these reforms will have their full impact as we go forward. Government also would have learned many things, that how things work, and many things that so they basically are far more informed on how things work in the system. That is on the internal side. Then if you really look at China-US trade war, can be beneficial to India, because India can become the sourcing as well as India can be an indirect beneficiary of this. Not only that, if you really look at China has been the largest country in terms of recipient of foreign capital and foreign investment. So on one hand, they will have a negative impact of the trade war, but otherwise also they are slowing down in growth. Their infrastructure investment is saturated. And therefore, India becomes by default the largest destination or the most favored destination for capital. And only worry or only concern most foreign investors had that what kind of political government will have. And if on 23rd that gets sorted out decisively, then I think there's no reason why India will continue to attract good amount of foreign capital. Not only foreign capital, even if you look at domestic savings, after demonetization, the financialization, what I talked about, flow of savings into more productive assets like mutual fund and equity had increased. See, we must understand, when the savings go to real estate or gold, they are unproductive sectors. It goes more like an investment. And when it goes to, say, even stock market, mutual funds, they in a way encourage equity building, capital formation for in the form of equity, which can attract more debt capital. So that basically can attract more companies to expand, go to capital, raise more money, and that in turn will generate jobs and employment. So from that perspective, I think all these things put together, we can look forward to a much stronger economy and therefore much stronger markets in next 5 years. I can't really predict on a week to week or a day to day, but if you are like a long-term investor, you want to invest now and wait for 3 years, 5 years, then I think you'll have good returns.
Last time round at the same, in 2013-14 period, around the same time, the market has practically doubled since then. The benchmarks and broader markets have done higher. When you interact, because you have a domestic wealth business, when you interact with big HNIs and domestic investors, and you also have very good relations, business relations with overseas investors, Prem Vatsas of the world, etc. When you talk to them, what are you gathering on the flows front, potential for next couple of years? Because flows did get stalled. Domestic flows last 6 months and overseas flows for other reasons over a year. They did get stalled. Do you think that narrative could change and we may see surge?
I think for sure the flows will become stronger. And a lot of capital has been on the sidelines, foreign capital. They are desperate in a way to look for some high return, good quality investment opportunities. And within emerging markets, India stands out for political stability, for high quality judiciary, and good quality entrepreneurs who can generate good wealth. There have been concerns. There are, what happens when somebody looks at Indian economy like an elephant, and people look at certain things and they are disappointed that private sector capex is not happening, or jobs are not being created the way. Some of the economic macro numbers are not good. So as I said, that the elephant, the way you can look at it. So if you look at, in terms of pure observation, then you go to restaurants, you go to hotels, or you go to airlines, these are the key indicators of services. Or you'll find that, they're all running to capacity. And I'm talking about not only smaller hotels, mid-sized hotels, all of them. And the general buoyancy in the economy, if you just go around and, watch. But at the same time, there are some segments that are impacted. See what has happened, the economy has changed in terms of structure. because earlier the growth would mean the large investments in factories. Somebody setting up a large steel plant or a large tire plant or a large cement plant. The world has changed because we don't need, so there are two things happening. One is that most industries and most services, they're learning to be more productive. And when you're more productive, you have a lesser requirement of capital. So in a way, capital productivity is a surrogate for capital investment. So supposing I could do certain amount of business with say 100 people in an office, and I can do twice the business with say 100 people. I might not grow the number, the size of the office, but still business is growing. And that has happened across the board using technology, and technology is being used by everywhere, universally, in different forms. So that is one, the impact of technology on productivity, and that is what has reduced the demand for capital investment by private sector. Secondly, our economy now is dominated by services. Almost 65% of economy is services, and also growth in the services segment is faster than the agriculture industries. There your minimum economic scale is smaller, and the segments that grow are also very different, which are different from what you are used to see traditionally and say this is growth.
Sure. So Nirmal, we also observed that this mega rally which we saw was on back of very select few stocks. Do you see that rally going forward if a stable government comes back or this similar kind of mandate comes back? Because broader markets have been beaten out of shape for the last 15-18 months, where companies actually may not be doing that bad, but because they belong to a certain category of universe of stocks, mid to small.
I agree with you. I think it's a very valid point that after this exit poll, the first flow of money will be in large cap or liquid stocks, because people can quickly build positions there. So they may buy Nifty, and therefore few stocks that dominate Nifty might move along with the Nifty. But and the flow of money is not going to get over in 1 day's time. So as people get time to think and plan properly, and they'll find values in mid cap and the stocks that are beaten down. So this rally will spread wider, and that's where the opportunity is. That investors can look for mid cap which are values and build positions there, and they'll probably see a lot more traction there. So as we go, and after the final election results on 23rd and 24th, and hopefully there will be no surprise vis-a-vis say exit poll. And then I think then in weeks to come you'll see that rally broad basing in a very nice manner.
Actually, that's a big hypothesis, and we are having this discussion based on that hypothesis. But how did you, being an entrepreneur who became a head of such a big group, you have wider business interests now. How did you observe the 5-year term of this government so far? And if they do come back in power, which are the areas you think in your homework, your interactions in the industry, that they will definitely focus on and could be the areas of progress on the reform end?
So in 5 years, I will say that their intent was right. A few good things is that major big reforms got off the ground, and also whatever we hear at the corruption that is at the top level, was reduced or removed. But what happened is that there was the one important thing for us is to see that entrepreneurs and large businesses and large industries, they do not fear. Many times perception becomes reality and people forget the facts, so that should not happen. So when you want to say sort of track down and put fear in the people who are holding black money or doing things the wrong way, the way the administration works, the fear can get into a right kind of people also, and that basically the fear psychosis is not good. So I think this government in 5 years, they did many good things, but I mean, looking back, that is something which is not surprising, that many things are still in pipeline, or is still, they're not played out fully, they're work in progress. They took a little longer than what government would have expected. And in a way, then this same government comes back to power is good, because then they can continue their unfinished agenda and take it to logical conclusion. And then people see a lot more benefit. To take a small example, GST. A tax reform like this, is impossible to say that in 1 or 2 years time everything will settle down, and however good you are in planning. But as long as you are willing to listen and fix the problems, let it take 3 years, 4 years. But still, this is something which was waiting for more than 50 years. But then once it starts giving results in terms of better taxes, better compliance, and better logistics, and less wastage in terms of movement of goods as well as on the border, then the economy sees the benefit. So, and even bankruptcy law, I think it took off very well, but there are still some teething issues that need to be sorted out. So I have a feeling that, and I think even if you see Mr. Modi's Gujarat this thing, the second term was far better than the first term. First 2-3 years he was just struggling to settle down and make things. So I have a feeling that a lot of things have started well, but the fruits should appear in the second in next 5 years.